All right, got a few people in here now. That's good. And we're also streaming live on YouTube. A couple of minutes before we start, so please type any questions you have into the chat. Please be aware that if you're watching on YouTube, there's a time lag of about 20 seconds. So if you have any questions about OET writing, OET speaking, reading part A, reading part B, listening part A, listening part B, please feel free to type them into the chat. Okay. One question's come up. Said, how do we structure the OET letter? Well, it depends. If you've seen my other webinar on OET writing, you'll see that there are two main ways to structure the OET letter. One is by order of importance. So you select the case notes and you structure your letter because the letter is urgent and perhaps you're referring this person to a physiotherapist or something like that, and you're structuring it by order of importance. The second way that you structure the letter is by time, chronology, order of events. For example, perhaps it's not very urgent and you're referring this particular patient to a radiographer or whatever, and you have to outline the events that patient came on this date with these symptoms, this date with these symptoms, etc. So there are sort of two main ways to structure your letter. Cool, we're just on 2:30, so we may as well get started here. All right. Excellent. All right, so this lecture is on OET Reading Part A. It's by e2language.com. Let's first think about what OET Reading Part A looks like. It looks like this. There are two main sections. You get a summary, okay? And you get answers. And you can obviously see that you need to type, or not type, write rather, the answers. You need to fill the gaps and write the answers in here. Now, where does this come from? Well, it comes from 4 or 5 paragraphs that you'll also see, okay? There are about 30 blanks that you need to fill. It's a really tricky little thing, okay? It's a tricky part of the test, and importantly, you only have 15 minutes to do it, which is really not much time. Now, I said it comes from 4 or 5 paragraphs, but texts is what we call them. So the information that you need in order to fill those gaps comes from texts like this, okay? Now, it's not really a written paragraph. This one is in fact statistics, but you need to be able to interpret statistics in order to fill those gaps. Well, what do you have to do? Well, as I said, you have 15 minutes to complete the summary using the 4 texts. So, in order to do this in 15 minutes, it's imperative that you have a formula, that you have a method to do it, that you know exactly what to do as soon as you can start writing. Because the last thing you want to do is sit there and think, what is this? What is this exam? What am I supposed to do? What's the first thing I should do? No, you should absolutely know the first thing to do immediately. So the first step is to identify the text types. And this will only take you 20 seconds. This is the first step, and it's a really critical step. The text types include, and you might see, there are usually 4 of them, sometimes 3, but usually 4. You might see a Q&A, questions and answers. You might see research abstract. You might see statistics. You might see a definition, FAQs, a case study, or even something else which I have not written here. So here's the first question. I want you to type into the chat, what type of text is this? I want you to identify this one. Please type into the chat, what type of text is this? Good, Jacqueline, well done. Correct. Come on, Aki, Jenny, Lakshman, Takami. You can type into the chat. Good, Lakshman, well done. Yes, correct. Good, Aki, well done. All right, good. Well done. Yes. It's research or an abstract, okay? Let's now look at this text type. Please identify this text type. Type into the chat. Good, Jacqueline, well done. Good, Lakshman, excellent. Good, all right. Of course, these are statistics. Final one, what type of text is this? Good, Jacqueline, well done. Good, Aki, good. Yep, good, Lakshman, well done. Good. All right, cool. So these are FAQs or Q&A. And this one, of course, is a case study. It says it right there. Now, why is it important to identify the text type? Because what you'll see hidden inside the summary is a hint that directs you to which text type you should be reading, okay? So, in which text type should you look? Okay, you've got the 4 text types that you need to find. Have a look at this. Which one would you look at to find the answers? Would you look in research, FAQs, statistics, case study, Q&A, or definition? Good, Jacqueline, you've got it. Well done. Good, Aki. Yes, yes, yes. Right, so if you wanted to find the answers to number 1 and 2 and 3, you would look in statistics. It says it right there. Statistics for 2008 showed that blah, 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 blah. So now you know where to look. And so the answer is C, statistics. That's where you would look to find the answers for this particular paragraph, right? You would look here to find those answers. So if you don't understand that, well, it makes it very difficult because what would you do? Read all 4? You don't have time. Let's do another one. In which text type should we look to find the answers for this paragraph? Please type into the chat. Good, Jenny. Excellent. Good, Aki. Good, Jacqueline. Good. So that took you 3 seconds to identify where to look. And so you would, if you look into that paragraph, it says researchers, and it also says the words a control group. And we know that a control group and a study group and researchers comes from research or the abstract. So you would look here to find those particular answers. Let's do one more. In which text type should we look for this one? I'm going to give you a hint. There are 2 answers here. Good, Lakshman. Good, Jacqueline. You've got 1. What's the other one? Good, Aki. Good, Aki. Yes, well done. Good, Jacqueline. Possibly. So Lakshman said statistics and research. Jenny said case study and research. Jacqueline said statistics and case study. Good. Let's have a look. Let me appear. Right, so here we can see the word in one case. That's a good hint. And we can also see the word here, statistics. So in which two texts would we find the answers? Well, the statistics and case study, C and D. So we would look here and we would look here. And this brings us to our first tip. A paragraph in the summary usually relates to one text, but may relate to two. Okay, let's go back. So this is the paragraph in the text. Usually it relates, usually you will find the answers in one of the texts, but sometimes, especially if it's a larger paragraph, you'll have to look in two texts to find the answers. Case study and statistics in this case. Cool. So we've gone through the first step, and that's to identify the text types and then to look into the text so we know which text type to look at. The second step, you need to speed read the texts and you need to look for headings, subheadings, and keywords. This is going to take you 2 or 3 minutes, okay? You need to do this step because if you don't read the texts, if you don't speed read them, you'll have no idea what they're about. And what we can get a lot of information in 2 or 3 minutes. Remember, you have 15 minutes. If you miss this step, it makes it really hard to get the correct answers. So what we need to do in reading part A is balance efficiency, moving quickly, with accuracy. But if you don't do the accuracy bit and you just move quickly, you might not get the correct answers. And if you just do the accuracy bit, you might just get 3 or 4 correct answers, but not more. So we have to balance the two. So I just want you to look at this text here and quickly read the heading, the subheadings, and identify keywords. Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds to do that. Cool. Okay, fine. So you can see the heading. You can see the subheadings, authors, context, objective, design, setting, participants. These are really important words because it's going to ask you in the summary for information about participants, for example, and now you know exactly where to look. First step is to know which text to look in. Second step is to know where in that text to look. So main outcomes, measures, results, and conclusions. And then if we look at context, we can see keywords like method of contraception, concerns, risk of prostate cancer, for example. Okay, so we sort of look at it overall for the headings and the subheadings, and then we look specifically at the keywords. So now that we've identified the text types and we know in which text to look at, and now that we've identified the headings and the subheadings and the keywords so we know specifically where to look at, what's the third step? Well, after you've identified the text types and speed read the text, you're ready to go. Step 3 is where you fill the gaps by going back and forth from the summary to the text, and here's where you spend 12 minutes. Okay, so you spend 20 seconds on step 1, you spend a couple of minutes on step 2, and the rest of the time you spend on actually filling in the answers. So let's do one. First of all, first step, in which text type should we be looking to find the answers here? Quickly type it into the chat. Good, Aki, well done. Yes, good, Lakshman, good. Good, Jackie. Well done. Cool. So we know we need to look at the text type about research. So there we go. Then we move to the research. In which part of the text? Okay. So now it says researchers in Australia contacted something men aged between 40 and 75. In which part of the text, which section of this text should we look at to find the answers for 14? What type of men? Where would we look here? Type that into the chat. It's a bit tricky. Good, Jenny. Yes, you've got it. Well done. Type of men. Type. Good, Aki. Yes, correct. Excellent. I thought that was a bit hard, but good. You did well. Yes. So if we want to find the answers for number 14, men aged between 40 and 75, we're going to go to this text and we're going to look at this part here, because participants is the key word which guides us to this part. Okay, so let's now answer the question. Researchers in Australia contacted something men aged between 40 and 75. 923 new cases of prostate cancer among men aged 40 to 74 years. So they contacted 923. Cool. Then we quickly write it into the gap here. Now, let's do number 2. Who had been diagnosed with something in the preceding? What have they been diagnosed with? Quickly answer that question. Diagnosed with what? Yes. Good, Jacqueline. No, what have they been diagnosed with? We're still looking in this part here. New cases of recently diagnosed with. Let me go back. Who had been diagnosed with what? Yes, good, Aki, well done. Cool, all right. Good, so prostate cancer. So now we know we've got the answer for 14 and the answer for 15. Researchers in Australia contacted 923 men aged between 40 and 75 who had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. If we go back and we look here, 923 new cases of prostate cancer who had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Good. Right, let's do number 16. In the preceding something months. In the preceding something months. So let's look at the answer here. Good, Jackie, you've got it. Good, Aki. Good, Jenny. Good, Lakshman. Excellent, cool, good. So that one we knew we were looking for a number because it was talking about months. So 3 to 15 months after diagnosis. So in the preceding 3 to 15, the word months is already here. We don't need to write it again. We just write 3 to 15 straight from the text. Now, a control group. So now we know we're going to look in a particular part of the text. A control group of men with a matching something profile. A control group of men with a matching something profile. All right, this one's a little bit harder, isn't it? This one's definitely a little bit harder. Let's have a look. Matching to cases in 5-year age groups. Let's have a look. So here's the keyword matching, with a matching something profile. Matching to cases in 5-year age groups. This one is definitely a bit hard. It's matching age profile. Was also a control group of men with a matching age profile was also interviewed. That one you had to sort of subtract to try and find that particular word. Good. Right. Now, here's a tip. You should write your answers in the summary and in the blanks, right? You should write it here and here. Why? Because you need to make sure that the word fits for grammar and meaning, okay? And if you write it in here, you can make sure that the grammar fits. If you write it in here, it's difficult to go back. So you scribble it in here quickly, and then you write it in here, okay? So make sure that the word fits. What's wrong with this word here? Please type in the correct word. Good, Jackie, well done. So you will in fact be marked incorrectly if your grammar is wrong. So yes, you have to find the right keyword, but that keyword has to be grammatically accurate. Good, Lakshman, well done. Good. All right, so it's not have, it's a vasectomy is a procedure. Patients are informed that vasectomy is a procedure, have serious risks or complications, does not work. Okay, right. In fact, the answer here is without serious risks or complication. Or you could write that has serious risks or complication, but that's wrong. But the point that I wanted to make was that it needs to fit grammatically, okay? Now, tip, write no more than 3 words. It says in the instructions that you should write no more than 3 words. So if you write 923, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words, it will automatically be incorrect, okay? You need to write 923 as a number. Now, here's another tip. There are different ways to write the same thing. So this is taken from the answer sheet of the OET, and you can see that in one gap, you can write 18% or 18%. You can write 70 or 70 years old. Now look at this one here. These are all correct. So there are different ways to write the same thing. There are different answer options, in other words, relatively, fairly, steady, constant, level, unchanged, stable, consistent, almost, roughly the same, similar, maintained, or sustained. Any of those words would be counted as a correct answer. So here's another important tip. Because you're constrained for time, because it's only 15 minutes in length, if you cannot find an answer, skip it and come back later. Don't waste time on one answer. In fact, your answer sheet might look like this. If you just have 5 minutes left, you might have an answer sheet that looks like this. If you can't find one, skip it. Because what will happen is the more that you go back and forth from the summary to the texts, the more that your brain will start to understand those texts and know what they're about and where to look. So in fact, you might go, okay, 1, 2, skip number 3, 4, 5, skip number 6, get to 7. And then you go, oh, I know the answer now for number 3. And you'll come back and quickly do number 3. It's a complicated reading test, it really is. But let's recap the steps that we've learned in this lecture. So step 1 is to identify the text types, which will take you 20 seconds, right? Step 2, you need to speed read the text and understand the headings, subheadings, and keywords. This will take you a couple of minutes. Then you're ready to go. Step 3, you fill the gaps by going back and forth from the summary to the text, and you know which text to look at, and you know in which part of the text to find the answers. that will take you about 12 minutes. In other words, that will take you the rest of the time. Here are the tips. Write your answers in the summary and in the blanks, because you need to make sure that the word fits for grammar and meaning. Write no more than 3 words. And there are different ways to write the same thing, so don't stress about that. And importantly, if you cannot find an answer, skip it and come back later. Don't waste time on one answer. Cool. Let's go to Q&A now. So if you have any questions, anything at all, whether it be about reading part A or any section of any subtest on the OET, feel free to type into the chat any questions you have. You're a very quiet class, I must say. When I teach IELTS and PTE, it's not quiet like this. No questions? I'll give you 30 more seconds. Lakshman, it's about practice. Okay, so I've just taught you the method. And I've shown you where to look to find the answers, but now it's up to you to apply this method. Because it's one thing to understand a method, but it's only when you start to apply the method that you really start to get it, that it makes sense, that it becomes automatic. Okay. I must say, if you're worried about your OET, I strongly recommend that you sign up to e2language.com. We are the OET's only authorized feedback provider. So we are actually trained by the OET to give feedback, expert feedback on writing and speaking. We also have an online course which can prepare you for the OET. We have all of the sections of the test. We do live one-on-one tutorials. We do written feedback. Lakshman, if you want to join, you just go to www.e2language.com and click on OET. Jackie asks, will they add more points to writing if you provide them with big words such as detrimental instead of harmful, or the simpler the better? One of the criteria is vocabulary, but the OET is very different test to the IELTS. In IELTS, yes, I would say definitely you need to use interesting, sophisticated synonyms. But in the OET, you have to use precise language, but it's not about showing off. It's about using clear language. So Jackie, what I would do if I were you and writing the OET referral or discharge letter, I would choose the clearest possible word. Okay, that's critical. Grammar and vocabulary are important in OET writing, but what's more important, or as important, is actually your ability to select case notes, your ability to transform them into your own words, so it means the same thing. And probably most importantly is your ability to organize the case notes into a good structure, a logical structure that keeps the reader in mind. Anyway, if you haven't seen the webinar on OET writing, I suggest you do that. It's on our YouTube channel. That's really important. Jackie asks, is it better to write in a passive form or is it better to use active form in the letter? It absolutely depends on the sentence that you're writing. Passive sentences are fine. They're both fine. There are some people say that you should not use passive sentences, but this is incorrect. Sometimes it's essential to use passive sentences. For example, if you say something like, the patient was admitted on the 1st of January, okay, passive sentence, that's perfect. It sounds odd if you say, one of our nurses admitted the patient on the 1st of January. because the nurse is actually irrelevant. So if in that case, because the subject is irrelevant, we make a passive sentence and we start with the patient was admitted by the nurse, but we don't mention that on the 1st of January. So in fact, passive sentences are important in OET writing, but it's about knowing when to use them. So if you're unsure, I strongly recommend taking a tutorial with us so we can check your writing. Cool. All right, I might leave it there. I hope you enjoyed that. Well, probably not enjoy is the right word. I hope you sorry, Jackie's got one last question. Do you provide programs that focus in one area only, like writing? Yes, you get full access to the course. So you get OET reading part A, listening, etc. But you can choose to specialize in writing or speaking, for example, and take your one-on-one tutorials on those topics. So yes, we do specialize. Right, I might leave it there. And thanks very much for attending. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I strongly recommend you go to e2language.com and I will see you soon. Cool.